Good evening, all. Ira Epstein with your metal market wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for a pretty wild trading day. This Wednesday, the 17th of May, 2023, 5:55 p.m. Central Time. So let me tell you what's strange. You keep taking interest rates, yields, right on up, big time. All of a sudden, you're back to nearly, 4.15 or so in the 2 years. I mean, you're just soaring these rates, taking them all the way back up. The dollar going higher, and yet the stock market rallying with that. We get a lot of Fed speakers coming out. They come out and they go, we're going to be data dependent. Today's rally didn't have legs until the president, before he left for the G7 meeting, came out, brief conference. There is going to be no default. There will be a deal of some type done. He didn't know when. He's in constant contact for the 4 days that he's gone. I don't think he should have gone, but he went. And I understand why he went. So, I'm not crazy about it, but this meeting was supposed to be about curtailing the actions of Russia, China, with the G7, and now we've weakened ourselves. There's no question about it. With everything going on with our debt ceiling issue that we brought on ourselves, that's it. Could this have been avoided? Absolutely. If you'll recall, in February, the president said he won't negotiate. And that is when Speaker McCarthy presented a bill. So now it gets done where you got to race at it all the time. Let me tell you, that's how it works every time. So this president is really no different than all the other presidents I've seen. Everybody kicks the can down the road, and government has a way of trying to do things at the last minute. But you don't have a deal. If anything, you're already seeing, example, Senator Warren. I'm not going to agree to anything like that, blah, blah, blah. We don't even know what the deal is, and she's already not agreeing. So why don't everybody give them a chance? The bigger problem, as I see it, is today is the 17th. If the drop dead date is June 1st, and let's assume it takes another week to get things done, do you really believe that within 5 to 6 days, Congress can get a bill passed, a bipartisan bill? I have my doubts. So that's where we're at. So I understand yesterday down dramatically in stocks. Stock indices specific, except the NASDAQ. And today, up dramatically in them on that. The metal markets getting cracked, and cracked hard. Gold down into the 1980 level. If you look at the lower Bollinger Band, which we will, you'll see the supports under the market. Energy markets coming alive, of course. When did the Biden administration decide to do the beginning? It's just a small amount of SPR purchase, but when did they do it? When the market's not going to let them do it, okay? They didn't do it when it was $64. They didn't buy a thing. They'll wait till they can't buy it, and that's the way that it operates with them. So when we take a look at all this in the metal markets, copper rejected, I think yesterday was 363 roughly, and you've come all the way back here. So let's take a look, if we could, together and get a feel for what we have. For the week in gold, have you done any real damage on a weekly chart? Not completely. No, you're getting a correction. You're down for the week 1.68%, including the evening trade so far. When you look at the daily chart, we called it here. You had the market with lower highs, lower lows, not to be long. Where did we talk about the market fighting a battle? It started here, and when you got under that low 3 days ago now, that cracked the market. So I kept telling you there's two areas that you could go to, the Bollinger Band and or when you're just looking at moving averages right here, 1947.30. Where's the Bollinger Band? The Bollinger Band is right here. So where did the market miss it by? Maybe that's the way to look at this point in time. That number is 1976.10. You got to 1978.10. Pretty close. Come on, pretty darn close, any way that you want to cut it. Is there resistance above the market? Of course there is at that 18-day average at 2015. Where are you in momentum? Oversold as can be. So putting a gun to my head and you were to say, Ira, what do you think? I would say to you, I think we're going to have major support between the lower band and the 100-day average. I don't think the market can come alive until you know what's going on, be it an extension or a deal on the debt ceiling. And then we'll get into the very next step where then it can come alive. What is the Fed going to do in their June meeting? The Fed wants to see the jobs data report, no question about that, and the CPI numbers. From there, we'll know what they do. Now, I'm a little bothered because if you look at the swaps market on the Canadian dollar, it's already starting to predict, while Canada has not raised rates now, I think for 2 meetings, they may have to go back to raising rates. If that's the case, just like Australia, that would give examples of 2 developed economies that have tried to do a pause, and unfortunately, you don't stay the course. They didn't drop rates, don't get me wrong. They paused, and the pause didn't produce the result, and the inflation started coming back up, and they have to go at it again. There's a huge difference between a pause and a pivot down. A pivot is not going into a pause, to me at least. A pivot would be dropping the rates down. Neither of them did, and both have had to go back up in them, or at least we don't know if Canada will, but it's June 7th, if I've got my date right here, and that's what I'm looking for. When I look at the gold-silver ratio, as I said, I think the 83 level is going to prove to be a problem to get much beyond. I'm not picking a top, it's just looking that way early on. And I say that for a reason. It's got education behind it. Look at the 100-day average. Look at the Bollinger Band. They're together. That's often a sign where a market exhausts itself to the downside and you get a bounce from that. Will it be a true turn? I think it can be. When? Again, going back to the debt ceiling and what's going to happen. So we're not dealing in that far off already. Tomorrow's going to be, we're into tomorrow's trade, and that's the 18th of May. This thing, we're going to know in the next 2 weeks pretty much what we have. I'll be watching it. Nothing on this chart can give me, the way I teach charting, a buy signal, but everything is said cover shorts. Everything, every piece of work I have. In the copper market, you are fighting a battle at the lower band. You're refusing to embed. So now the resistance becomes the area of the 200-day average and the 18. Now, the problem, as we know, has been China. What will China do to make their economy pick up is going to be the big question. I think it'll be in banking. I think they'll relax things again to get things going. You know, the banks there, the last go around, they told banks they had to extend mortgages, they had to do things for the properties. It didn't do enough, nor did coming out of COVID, because the problem is that everybody else's economy has, well, Europe is not as strong as it was. It's still good. It's not as strong as it was. And we have actually weakened a bit. Not terribly, but we have weakened a bit. And that's what the Fed is trying to engineer. So all this trade is a problem. When you and I look at the platinum market, you still have a pattern of higher lows, higher highs. And tell me where the battleground is. You fell back over here to the 18-day average, slipped under it for 2 days, and now you're right back and fighting at it again. So unless the market can clear this low, again, this market's trying to say, hey, I can get back over the 18-day average and be friendly. In the palladium market, you're now in a downtrend. You have lower highs, lower lows in the first test again. Take a look here. This was the first test of the 100-day averages. You fell back, came back up, and that's the retest. It stayed over at 2 days and let go again. Yes, it got over at intraday, but 2 days over, it's not going to convince me to do anything. So my rule that when you visit a major moving average that you haven't been at for a bit, it could be some resistance. Got to be careful in buying over. It doesn't mean the trend wasn't up at that point. It actually wasn't. You had a lower low, higher high, but I look at it as the resistance point. Here you had an uptrend, and it was the combination of the first hit of the Bollinger Band with it that held back the market. Now in the dollar index, this is a problem area for me. It's a challenge of the 100-day average and the Bollinger Band. Yes, the market closed over it. Will it be able to stay over it when it's overbought? I don't think so. So I'm looking for the dollar to have a problem here. We do have a piece of work on what's called our price counts. And I saw that today they issued new charts on them, and that's what our clients can get. We'll talk about how you can get some of this, by the way. And they're calling for possibly getting up to another 70 points, around 103.45, which would be what we call our first price count objective. The market threw out on the price counts new upside targets, not downside targets. So I find that fascinating because if the dollar keeps coming up, it probably means what? Probably means interest rates are going to keep going up. Why is the stock market going up and all that? Higher rates, you're going to tell me the market's going to keep going? I got my doubts about that. Something's got to give here with the Fed or what this is doing in the stock market. And I don't know which, but it's going to come, and it's going to come fairly fast. So what you heard me talk about here was this is our website, the front page of it. I know some of you like to use TradingView. If you come over here and you see the word software and you give that a click, you'll see it. That's where you activate it. All right, then we activate on our side. We go into TradingView, activate all the signals for you, and away you go. When you go back in, after we'll send you an email, now go in, you will see your suite of my indicators, the swing lines, window envelopes, Bollinger Bands, slow stochastics with my formula, outside day formula. It'll light up for you if you want that to be lit up there. All the tools that I use right there. For the free offers, all you got to do is step with me over here and give a click there, and that'll give you everything that you want. Each day that I post my updates in the morning and late at night, my evening review like this one, it'll appear on the website here as well. So you can watch that and you can see how easy it is. And I'll put up headlines, or my staff will for me, throughout the day. But there's so much here that you can get on. Different ideas, the recommendations, the education, the different courses right here. If you want to open an account, you just click right there. It's all there. And when you're a member, when you are a subscriber to my services, you get your own login up at the top, and it takes you right into everything in one spot, the daily numbers, everything you possibly need. Now, I'm not going to be here on Thursday or Friday. I'm taking 2 planned days off. I'll be back doing these updates on Monday, so I hope you miss me. I'm Ira Epstein. Trade well.